were times on The Office that I really struggled because I really wasn't happy, because it wasn't enough.
Hey everybody, I'm Chris.
And I'm Jimmy.
And welcome to, we're going to react to a video today. It's something I saw of Rainn Wilson. He's the guy that played Dwight Schrute, Bears beats Battlestar Galactica on The Office. And so, did you ever watch The Office?
I actually did watch it all the way through. I haven't watched it in a long time, but I was a pretty big fan.
Now there's the sequel, The Paper, that's out.
I've not watched that one.
I watched one episode. It was okay.
It was okay?
Just like the start of The Office. You're the first episode, you're like, meh.
You got to give it some time. Maybe it'll get good.
But we switched to another show. But I'm excited to watch it. But yeah, I've watched The Office, liked The Office. But recently, Dwight Schrute's been saying some things. Or I say recently, in the past year or two, just talking about how during his time in The Office, he didn't really enjoy it as much as you would think by watching him.
He looked like he was having fun.
Laugh, yeah, all that stuff. So we're gonna see why and see if we can glean some things from it from our own lives, Jimmy.
We'll glean.
We'll glean it up.
There were times on The Office that I really struggled because I really wasn't happy, because it wasn't enough. Here I was on the greatest job that I could ever imagine, beyond my wildest dreams, of that geeky chess-playing, bassoon-playing kid from suburban Seattle that, walked around like a pimply serial killer, that I would be part of one of the great TV shows of all time. I mean, give me a break. And here I was getting paid like millions of dollars and playing one of the most memorable characters. And I'm getting nominated for awards, and I'm working with the most beautiful family of actors and writers imaginable. And yet I was like, how come I can't get more movies? And why did my movie I did bomb? And why won't they make a deal with me? And I want to have this, and I want an office on Warner Brothers, and why can't I get a, And I spent a lot of time, unnecessary time and angst and anguish, in that anxious discontent, at a time when I should have just been like, it doesn't get better than this.
This appealed to me because I think there's this idea, right, that if we have a certain level of success, then we're going to be happy. And it's interesting hearing people like Dwight Schrute, Rainn Wilson, just talk about, I was at the height of my career, and he didn't really realize that at the time, but he's like, I should be getting more. I should have more money. He's making millions of dollars a year.
I know. I love what, like, all the poor people out there. They see people that are super rich and famous like this, and they're like, we hate you. Oh, you have all that and you're still sad? Well, I don't have any money.
And he was 38 when they started filming The Office, which I didn't realize that's old man years in acting. And so, but because he refers back to when he was in his 20s, he's like, yeah, I had nothing. And so he's like, I knew what it was like back then, and I was unhappy. He's like, but then I was getting all this stuff and I was still unhappy. And so why do you think that is? Why do you think people have this idea in their brain that, oh, I'll be happy when I have this, but when they get that, they're not really happy?
Yeah, I think in a lot of ways, it's kind of what you focus on. And there's two ideas that come to my mind. So one, there's this idea of a book called The Gap and the Gain. So you either live in the gap or you live in the gain. And the big idea is how you measure yourself. So you can either measure yourself where you are now to where you used to be, all the success, or what you could do is measure yourself now to where you could be. And it sounds like that's exactly what he was doing, where you see all your success now, but you imagine where you could be, and compared to that, you're like, well, my life sucks. Like, I could have all these new things, or I could be this far ahead, and it's kind of this invisible line of perfection, or where you could be, but you never get there, so you're always unsatisfied. Yeah.
So I'm going to bring up another guy that you don't know. Mandy Patinkin. Do you know who that is?
No. So that sounds a woman name.
No, it's a guy. He played Inigo Montoya on
I don't know what that is
Princess Bride.
Never
I'm
saw
Inigo
it.
Montoya. You killed my father. Prepare to die. Okay, so Mandy Patinkin, actor, wasn't making it big. Like, I mean, he played other stuff, but that role. So he said, I watched an interview with him recently where he's like, I went and saw a screening of, like, an early screening of The Princess Bride that he was in. And he said towards the end of the movie, he said, I was just weeping. Like, and my wife's like, do you not like it? You don't think? And so he's like, no. He's like, I'm in something that is going to change the world. Like, he's like, actors wait for a moment like this. And he's like, I've got it. He's like, this rarely comes along for anybody, but I've got it and I'm part of this thing. And it is, I mean, it's still a classic, even though you haven't seen it.
That's okay. I'm uncultured.
Yeah. Uncultured swine. But it's this moment where he realized like, oh, this is it. Like this is something special beyond anything that I could have come up with on my own. And Rainn does talk about later that he says, I did realize that, hey, I'm on something good. I am on something that is beneficial and is good and things like that. So how do you know? Like, how do you know versus, so yes, things are going well, but how do you still strive to be better and better yourself, but also enjoy the moment versus, I mean, does it go back to the gap of the gains, or is it like, okay, I've arrived and so I'm not ever going to do anything again? Or is it like, okay, what's next? How do I keep pushing myself forward, but also enjoying what I'm at now?
Yeah, and I think that's a hard balance, especially for people that are successful and ambitious, is they think if they are satisfied, then that will negate their ambition. So if they're content with what they have, then they won't strive to do more.
Yeah.
But I think where what it comes down to is what you're focusing on. Are you focusing on what you do have or what you don't have? Because if you're focusing only on what you don't have, then you're always going to be wanting more in kind of a negative way. But just like I forgot, Mandy was his name.
Mandy Patinkin.
And he was focusing on what he did have.
Yeah.
And actually, Stephen Bartlett, the Diary of a CEO guy that's interviewing Dwight, in one of his books, he talks about one of the best things that you can do for your mental health is practicing gratitude on a regular basis.
Yeah.
And he's basically saying just noticing and appreciating the things that you do have, just being aware of that along the way will dramatically increase your mental health. And you can still strive for things and still want things, but always being grounded on focusing on the things you do have rather than things you don't have.
Yeah, and that actually, if you watch this whole interview, that's what Rainn brings up. He's because who's the guy you said?
Stephen Bartlett.
Stephen Bartlett. I should know that, but yeah. But Stephen says, "Hey, what could I have said to that Dwight? Not Dwight, Rainn. You called him Dwight earlier. What could I have said to Rainn Wilson in that moment to help him understand?" And he said, if you would have just referred back to my spiritual journey of like, okay, what are you content with? What are you happy with? And just reminded me of the gratitude thing. He said, I wish I would have woken up every day and just listed 10 things like, I get to work with Steve Carell. I get to work with Jim Halpert, whatever his name, John Krasinski. I get to be with these great writers and producers. And I get to be with this great cast, and I get to be famous, and I get money and all this stuff. And he said, I wish I would have started my day with gratitude. And I mean, bring it back to the Bible. So, because Paul says, like, I've learned the secret of being content in all circumstances, that I can do all things that Christ who gives me.
I love people that take that out of context. I can do all things through Christ who strengthens me. Yeah, that's the verse. But yeah, he's talking about I've learned to be content in all circumstances.
Yeah, whether rich or poor or whatever. He's like, it's Christ that gets me through it. It's not what I've done or have achieved. He's like, I could be super rich and still be at the same level of contentment as if I'm poor. And he's like, because it's not my outer circumstances. Yeah. And that, I think that's where people make the mistake. They think, oh, if I've got this outer stuff that the world says is great, if I have cool cars and clothes and friends and influence and millions of followers on my channel, all that stuff, then I'll be happy. Then I'll have achieved some level of success. And you get there and you're like, oh, it's not that great. I mean, Rainn Wilson at the height of his career. I mean, Dwight Schrute is one of the most iconic. I mean, maybe besides I can't think of his name.
The kid from Polar Express.
No, Ron
Burgundy.
No,
I don't know.
From Parks and Rec. That guy.
You know the thing.
No,
right. He doesn't know. Our producer doesn't know.
But yeah, but there's few characters in television. Like if you say Dwight Schrute, I mean, you called him Dwight early because that is stuck in people's mind. Like this is this guy, and so. Yeah, so he's got this most iconic character and still not content. And later, I mean, he did realize like, oh, okay, this is a good place to be in and all that stuff. And so can you be content outside of being a follower of Jesus? That's because Rainn refers back to his like religious, but he's not a Christian in the sense of I follow Jesus Christ. He's called Baha'i. I don't know. You can
look it up.
Look it up. But yeah, So can you be content with just, if you're outside of following Jesus, is there contentment and happiness in life?
This is interesting because there's a guy named Dr. K that I think he's a psychiatrist, but he went to Harvard and he also studied to be a monk for 7 years. And he's got he was addicted to video games and now he kind of helps people get out of that. But the interesting thing with other religions is sometimes their goal is to detach themselves from desires completely. So not wanting anything and achieving true contentment.
Yeah.
And so I don't know in kind of an ultimate sense if you ever do that, but if you focus on the things that you do have, and how to bring it back to the biblical worldview is the idea of Jesus plus nothing equals everything. So even if you put that on a t-shirt, but you'll see these peoples in these third world countries that truly have nothing, but if they have that relationship with Jesus, they on a day-to-day basis are so much happier than he was at kind of that peak of success. So I think having tying it back to Jesus, that if you have that relationship with him, that's worth more than all of these other things, where Paul said, I would, trade everything to just have that. So if you can do that and find your contentment in that, then apart from any circumstances, that's where you're going to find your contentment.
Yeah, and when Jesus, he's talking to this crowd of people about, hey, don't worry about the food that you're going to eat or the clothes you're going to wear. He's like, the birds of the sky, he's like, they don't go shopping. He's like, they have enough, they have food. Like, God provides for them. He's like, the flowers of the field, they're more clothed splendorously. I don't know, that's not a word.
Splendorously is what the Bible says.
More splendor than King Solomon, who's a rich king. And he's like, they're more beautiful than that. And he's like, how much more is God going to take care of you, who's created in his image, than these birds and these flowers? And so there's something about, when we have that relationship with God, it's like, okay, he's going to take care of me. And so I don't have to strive for all these other things. Like, do I want those things? Yeah, at times I do. I want this video to get millions of views, and people are like, that guy is the funniest guy and the
like
best.
And subscribe.
Those two, they should be on a real TV show. Or but there's that part of me, but there's also this part of I want people to know Jesus and follow after him, because that's where the contentment is going to be. And you hear those stories about that. I don't know if it was Tom Brady, but some guy that won the Super Bowl 5 times and he's got 5 Super Bowl rings. He's like, there's got to be more to it than this.
No, I think Tom Brady's thing was he wanted another ring. That was his thing.
Okay.
No, there have been a lot.
There was another guy that said it. I don't know. A pastor, a friend of mine, used to show that every Super Bowl. See, there's more to it than.
Well, and to that point, I think what a lot of people do, they can either kind of find contentment in focusing on the gratitude that they have, but actually, in one of Stephen Bartlett's most recent videos, is because he was very successful. He grew a social media company, took it public, and made $100 million when he was 28.
Wow.
And then now he's massively successful and very popular, very famous, and all the rest. And he was talking to Dr. K, one of the guys, kind of from a Hindu perspective, and a Christian apologist, talking about meaning, purpose, and then also Alex O'Connor, which comes from kind of an atheistic perspective.
Yeah.
And I think he's come to the place where now that he has achieved all those things, there is that question of, is there something more? Where it's one thing to be content in those things, but to a certain point, you kind of get to the top of your ladder and you find out it's not what you expected, or it didn't fill a void that you thought it was going to. And a lot of times people ask that question, is there something else? And I think that's where Jesus comes into the situation.
Yeah, I think in Ecclesiastes it talks about that God has put eternity in the hearts of men. I think Audio Adrenaline said everybody has a God-shaped hole. And so, but there is something about realizing if it's just material stuff, then we're missing something. And I got to teach a group of high school leaders a week ago or so, and talk to them about, hey, if your goal is just to get more stuff for yourself, that's going to be just a dream that you're going to always chase after. You're always going to be looking for more stuff. The new iPhone comes out every 6 months. You're like, oh, this one has air. I'm like, it's so thin. Then you have to buy that giant battery pack. You're like, come on.
It's a scam.
Apple, scammers. But I'm going to buy one. So, but that's the thing. There's always going to be better stuff and more stuff for you to have. And so there's that almost endless goal of chasing that stuff. But it's still inside. You're like, there's got to be more to it, because I get that thing and I'm still unhappy. So what would make me
and to put this all in perspective, kind of bow on it, I was talking to a friend of ours, and he was talking about, on your deathbed, you're not going to ask to look at your bank account one more time. So visualizing you on your deathbed at 80, 90, whatever it is, and thinking about, okay, at the end, what are the things that you wish you would have done, and what are the things that actually matter? Yeah. And most of the time, the amount of money you made, the amount of stuff you got is not in there. It's going to be the relationships that you made, the impact that you're able to make on people, and then the relationship, especially going into the next life, the relationship that you have with Jesus.
Yeah, and it's going to be those people that are standing around you as you're passing into the next life kind of thing. You're like, this is what matters. These are relationships. I'm going to look at all of them and go, I wish I spent more time at the office.
At the office.
With Rainn Wilson playing Dwight Schrute. All right, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time.
See you next.